All right. So, this is our catching up with Coach JT. Tell us a little bit about who is Attorney Joellen Jones. Tell us a little about yourself.
So, I don't consider myself Attorney Joellen Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just Joellen Jones. I was born and raised I was born in Camden, but raised in the Cumberland County area. I've been here basically all my life. I went to Rowan undergrad. I'm a Cumberland Regional High School graduate, and I've always wanted to be a lawyer. So I think that's part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But more so, who I am has made me want to be a lawyer. Like, I've always had a passion for wanting to be a voice for other people or speaking out against things that I thought that was wrong. So since I've had that for such a long period of time, I just felt like natural step, the law was where I needed to be as far as career-wise. You know what I mean? On top of that, I'm a mom. I like to volunteer. I like to have fun with my friends. So just have a whole lot of things going on, multifaceted, I think.
Cool. So what you would say has been your biggest influence in law? Who or what, inspired you to do that, take that path?
So when I was younger, so in second grade, we made these T-shirts for for actually MLK holiday. And we had to make sure we have a dream. So I had a dream to be a lawyer. And that's because I was always wildly fascinated with Black history. People who look like me who had done great things, specifically people like Martin Luther King and people like Malcolm X and people like Thurgood Marshall and Sojourner Truth or just whoever, Harriet Tubman, just people who look like me. And one thing is that I realized that a lot of things, for things to be changed, a lot of things got changed in the courtroom. It was legislation. It was people going out and fighting against certain things, bringing things up and fighting and continue that fight. So when I was younger, I used to want to be a minister and a civil rights attorney. That was actually what I wanted to do. So I was always motivated by that. But I had a mom who also exposed me to all those different things. She was somebody who, back in the riots, back in the 70s, when she was in high school, was instrumental involved in that. She was part of the Blacks on the South Side, which was Boss and the Tin Can and all those things. So it was kind of something that was instilled in me, fighting for what is right, standing on some type of principles. So it's just something that I've always had since I was younger.
Nice. Let's talk about that a little bit more, about the importance of a parent's influence.
Okay.
Me being a parent myself, let's talk more about your mom, like how, what are some things that she encouraged you to do, like you said, fighting and all that type of stuff for what was right?
So I'm not even sure my mom had this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These are the things that she was interested in. My grandmother was the kind of person that her house was always an open house for kids and young people. And she just did things, I guess, based on her beliefs and her principles. Mm-hmm. So my mom kind of just reiterated that same thing with us. So I just watched my mom growing up. Like, I knew she worked when I was older, I know she worked for DIFUS. I knew her job was to help try to protect children. And I know that her house was always a house where everybody was able to hang out, my older cousins or older friends or community people. So education, I knew, was always important. Like, I don't remember my mom ever saying to me, hey, you need to go to college, or you need to get education, or you need to read. It's just that she read and she had books and she did those things. So I kind of just followed in those steps. Like, it was something that was normal for me. Like going to school was just normal. Like, it wasn't really like, I feel like I even had a choice. Like, you're supposed to go to school. You live here, you go to school. Graduate from high school, you're going to do something after that. So it just kind of was a natural progression. So my mom was a great influence on me, like I said, but she was well read. She was well knowledge. She was into those things. So because she was into them, it kind of by default, I got into them.
Nice. I like that. Good stuff. So let's talk about gun violence and its effects. I know that's something that personally touched your life. So let's talk about that.
Okay. Gun violence, I mean, there's no way to get around it. It's horrible, right? It shocks the core of who you are. To have a loved one and to lose that loved one at the hands of somebody else is an awful, awful feeling. I think it's a feeling that it takes you a while to get back, bounce from, and a feeling that it's hard to process, right? There's no right or wrong answer. You go through moments of sadness, moments of anger, moments of hate of another human being because they took your loved one's life. And on the flip side, there's another family that's also going through something, right? So I think about my mom when my brother died, and I think about how I felt, and my world was shattered. My brother was only 14 months older than me. So my world was shattered. Everything I knew, everything I counted on was all gone. And although I watched my mom do everything that she needed to do, I watched my mom at the hospital pick up kids, young people off of the concrete because they were crying, my brother's friends, family members. I watched my mom at that funeral stand and walk in with at the time she was married, my stepfather and my father. I watched her tell people that, no, I don't want his friends sitting in the back of the church. I want the first few rows on the opposite side for his friends because they were his family. And until I became a parent, I never even understood the strength that she posed. And then my mother, it's no secret, Ryan Young, the young man who spent the time, well, he's an adult now, but the time person who was pled guilty to my brother's murder, him and I have connected and we talked. But before I even got to that point years ago, my mother went and reached out to his mother and met with his mother and sat in her living room and talked to her. And my mom forgave a lot earlier. And I just didn't understand it. And then I became a parent, and it was like, I really didn't understand it. As a mother, like, somebody took your child from you. But I also realized how strong my mom was, like how dope this woman was, because when she was in the midst of losing her own child, she was concerned about other people's kids. She was concerned about people's friends, and she stood there and she held my father up and she held this person and that person up. And I'm like, wow, this woman is just strictly beyond amazing. And I say that to her sometimes, and I think that everybody thinks their parents are dope. They're supposed to. But that woman is one of the best examples of whoever was. And then years later, after I had spoken to Ryan, I watched her hug Ryan and embrace him. And that to me is powerful. Although people say to me that I'm strong for forgiving somebody because it's close to my brother, my mom, she is the real MVP in all this. Because I couldn't imagine being her. Although, and the thing about gun violence is that there's never any winner, right? A lot of times, far too many times, the perpetrator and the victim are very young people. Mm-hmm. And the answer in the system has been so far, okay, we throw this person away and we send them to prison for 60 years. That's not the answer either. You know what I mean? Just throwing our young men away and letting them rot in prison is not the answer. Mothers having to bury their children are the answer. And far too many times, especially in communities like this, in Cumberland County, in small communities or small areas, you know somebody on both sides, right? Everybody knows somebody who's sitting in prison or has been charged with murder, and everybody knows somebody who has lost a loved one, or you've lost a loved one to gun violence. Like, it's so circular, and there is no winners, right? So I think that I'm a big fan of David Banner. And David Banner said that one reason that he always addressed people who look like him as brother and sister, king and queen, is that it's very hard to want to hurt somebody who you consider a brother.
That's right. And he
also said the same reason why cops feel like it's okay to shoot young brown kids is the same reason we feel, because we feel like our lives don't matter. We feel like we're not important. It's easy to look, if you look at somebody as a brother, if you look at somebody as the next President Obama, the next king, the next queen, the next lawyer, doctor, the next father, or look at them as a human being, it's very hard to get there. But we don't look at each other like that. We look at each other as being disposable, because the world tells us that we're disposable, right? The world, the system tells us we're disposable. The school system tells us we're disposable. The courts, everybody's telling us that we don't matter. The images of us on the TV tell us we don't matter. The images of us on whether it's the news or the movies or music, we don't matter. We're not important. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to get rid of somebody who's not important. And then also on the flip side, we don't think we're important ourselves, right?
Yep.
I always said, I'll stop my friend from pulling the trigger, not because I even care about the other person, but because I care about my friend.
That's right.
right? I don't want to see you throw your life away. No matter
Exactly.
how I feel the other person, I don't want to see you. So I think that gun violence changed when we start caring about ourselves, when we start bringing that love back to that community, when we let each other know that I care about you. I care about you enough to not let you go to prison. I care about you enough not to be put in a system that I know is designed to take you there.
Wow. I like that. That's powerful stuff. So how do we change the street mentality? How do we get out of that frame of mind that is normal to expect, an eye for an eye type mentality type stuff, like that ride or die stuff, like no snitching, and just get rid of that whole mindset and get more community based.
I think it starts obviously like it starts in the home. It starts with communication, but it starts with exposure. Like so many times in too many communities that we don't know anything besides what's outside our front door, right? We don't know anything else besides that. So I think that exposing young people or exposing even adults to some things makes a big difference. So many kids have never left. There's kids in Britain who never really been to violent to Britain or Millville to Britain. They don't get outside of their own comfort zone. And I can't blame people for that because sometimes it's finances, sometimes it's just fear, but also operating in fear and operating in survival mode. I went to a trauma training earlier this year, or in the last year. And the thing is that trauma is always operating in that fight or flight stage, right? It's always being there. It's always being that, how do I fix this? Or how do I, it's almost like a sense of survival. And far too many times in our community, that's how we've had to operate that way. We've had to operate in survival, right? We're always quick, but it's about telling people how to slow down a little bit, right? That everything is not a life or death situation. Every
Wow.
argument is not like, everything is not about survival. Everything's not about surviving. It's about, okay, we're going to be able to figure things out. What seems very important right now, the thing that I hate this man for, the thing that I hate this female for, the thing that I think is so important right now, really is not going to be that important. And I'll give an example that's not as serious, but it is kind of thing. Right now, everybody is at high tense because we're all on lockdown. We'll find out that so many times that we see that like everybody's talking about graduations and missing out and doing this and doing that. Because right now we're thinking about the here and now. And yes, I think that kids walking the straight stage is important. Yes, I think they should be able to be honored and celebrated, and proms and everything is important. But when I think about 20 years ago, I barely can remember our prom or my graduation. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like at that
exactly.
moment, it's important. But in the future, so it's a way of saying, okay, yes, I need to survive. I need to make it through today, but also figuring out how is this going to really play a role in me in the future, right? What am I actually giving up? Is pulling this trigger going to mean that I'm going to give up my ability to have children, my ability to get married, my ability to go things? And also, I think it goes back to, we have to rethink about what's cool, right?
Yeah.
About what's fun and what's cool and what's something that I want to do. Like, and it doesn't mean that you have to give up rap music. It doesn't mean that you give up hanging with your friends or doing things that teenagers do. But it means that I have to just step back and think about things a little bit differently. And like, I think that when I was younger, my aunt, she still does, she sings opera, right? And she actually lives in Europe part of the year and lives in Florida the other part of the year, and she sings opera. And as a kid, I hated going to hear her sing opera. It was like the worst thing in the world for me. Like, this wasn't cool, right? But now, as an adult, I can appreciate certain classical music because of what was instilled in me. I didn't realize that she was doing that, but I feel like we need to expose our kids to more. We
Yeah.
need to, and maybe mom and dad can't afford to put the kid on a plane, or maybe mom and dad can't afford to maybe go to all these events, or maybe mom or dad is working crazy hours and they can afford to do it. But that's where community organizations come in. That's where
Yeah.
other things come in. That means that, like I said on the rec board in Fairfield Township, and I was like, we can't just, like, yes, sports are great, but we also need to have book clubs. We need to start reading to our kids. We need to start building libraries. We need to start encouraging them, having more time to sit and talk to professionals who look like them. Like right now, everybody's eye is on the class of 2020. And the 2020 class has mentors popping up out of everywhere. So yes, I would tell my kid who's graduating now, yes, you may not have or be able to walk, but you're part of this group right now who's offering to help give you an opportunity to be able to open doors for you that maybe you wouldn't have had, you just went through the normal graduation process. We need to continue those things. We need to continue supporting our kids. We need to make it so that when they go away to school, they don't feel like they're just being left out by the community, right? We need to be celebrating their good grades, and we need to be celebrating their triumphs, and we need to be walking them through the process. We need to say, okay, you know what, I get it. You're not sure what you want to do. I think one of the worst things that happened to this community was the VOTEC. And the reason why I say that is that because it's okay that it's a VOTEC and it's there, but the problem is that we didn't replace what we had. And I think that's the history of what we're doing. In order to get things better, we forget what we had and what was good about what we had. So we got rid of a VOTEC. So we got rid of the adult learning classes. We got rid of the kid who may not be the A or B student who didn't want to go to college. A lot of the kids who are ready for VOTEC now are wanting to head to college. But what happened to the kid who just wants to do a trade? And I think that we need to get back to just listening to our kids, talking to them.
That's right.
Hearing them out with them, not shutting them down. Okay, fine. You want to be the next big whatever. Instead of telling them why they can't do it, teach them what they need to do to get there. Because maybe they don't get exactly where they're shooting for, but maybe they find something else on that same road. I always say this. My daughter, when she was little, wanted to be a mermaid. If you asked her what she wanted to do, she wanted to be a mermaid. Never once did I tell her she can't be a mermaid or they're not real. I just didn't tell her. But I figured she'll figure that out. Like, the world's going to teach her that eventually. It's not about whatever. But what I'm going to teach her is maybe her love for mermaids, she wants to be a marine biologist. So she finds a love for the ocean or fishing or whatever, or be a veterinarian. Maybe that love would have came from something else. So I think with kids, we have to really, really listen to them, rock with them. I see people pushing their kids to sports they don't want to play, or pushing on activities, so that's what they think they want to do. But like, listen to them, find those other activities. And it's up to us as adults to, if there's a gap missing in our community, we need to build it. So we find out that we don't have the right people teaching our kids to play tennis or out there golfing or teaching them other things that are outside the box. Then we need to create that environment for them. We need exposure. Exposure makes a big difference. Exposure and support. And also, I guess to add question to that question, also not making our kids adults before they need to be adults, right?
Amen.
Right, I think about it. So my daughter was little. I was one of those parents, even when I could afford to. I didn't care about putting her a name brand. She wore sneakers and clothes with characters on it. Not because I couldn't buy her the name brand stuff, but I allowed her to be a kid. And she used to be so excited. Like, she loved it. Like, she liked being, I remember on picture day, I would let her pick out her own outfit. And one of the outfits I would have picked out for her, one that year, she had like on this plaid shirt with these sparkly green tights and this other, like something I would never have picked out for her. But she came to school so excited and she was smiling, and all the other kids were dressed to the T, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, RJ, we love your outfit." And it wasn't and they were sitting there looking uncomfortable in this really nice outfit. Their parents, if they looked sharp, their parents, but RJ was sitting here with all these mismatched colors. And my thought was, when she ever had pictures, I could be like, well, you pick that outfit out. Like, I let her be a kid. Let them be kids. Don't make them be little mini adults, because they're not. Listen to them, talk to them, and don't think that what goes around and that they're immune to it. They understand. You got to talk to them about it, right? Because we're putting trauma on them at such an early age. We can't ignore it, and we need to figure out how to answer them in age-appropriate ways, guide them in age-appropriate ways. Like I said, let them just be them. They don't need to be many adults. And because the world already, especially little brown kids, the world already sees them as being older than what they are. So we need to stop doing that to them ourselves. We need to stop doing that in our community. I always say this: the judge looks at my 16 and 17 and 18 or 18, 19, 20-year-old clients as grown people, but yet they treat their own 18, 19, or 20-year-old kids as still children. Do you know what I'm saying? So we need to protect them and treat them, allow them to grow in a safe and healthy environment. We need to encourage them. We need to correct them when they need to be corrected. We need to stop laughing at things that aren't really that funny when it comes to our kids. And we need to bring back it's okay having a community, right? Because everybody could check me when I was a kid, right? Like
Exactly.
my mom could check me, my aunts could check me, my older cousins could check me, the neighbors could check me, right? It really wasn't any of that. So now somebody can touch your kid, everybody ready to jump down their throat. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that we let people bully our kids, but at the same time, we need to teach our kids to be respectful. I always tell RJ all the time, come to me first. Come to me and I'll address it as an adult. You know what I'm saying? If I think it's out of line. But it's not your job as a child to disrespect an adult. That's not your job.
Exactly.
So I feel like it's great that we can give our kids all these bonus things, but we need to get back to some of the things that we had that we're forgetting to give them. And I was walking with my daughter today. I know everybody's on punishment, but there was like hardly any kids outside playing. Like, do kids go outside and play anymore? Just play. Like, we played. It wasn't like we had, like, go outside and play. It wasn't like we had to do this or do that or activity. We made activities up. Like, we played in the fields. Like, we played. Like, I don't know what it means, but like, just go play. Like, run, play. Be a kid.
Yep. That's the truth. Yeah, that's definitely the truth. Yeah, so how do you think we can fix the community, like get back to that? Like, is there things we need to set up, like group chats, like maybe parent type groups, or connect with the teachers, or
Everything. I think everybody has a role in it. I can't think of I've had, obviously, my mother and my grandmother, people who had stronger influence, but I had so many people who influenced me in my life. So many people I would call on for different things. And our kids need to know that's the same thing for them, right? They need to know that everybody is working for their best interest. I had teachers in Fairfield Township that to this day I love dearly. And they supported me in a way that I can't imagine being supported any other way. To the point where, like, I was talking to Miss Turner, one of my teachers, who actually never taught me, but I consider her still one of my teachers because that's how close it was there, right? So I think we go back to just more community-based things. I go back to, and I get it, it's scary. We hear awful things and we think that my kid can't go over there, I don't trust people, I don't do whatever else. But we have to get back to, yes, bad things can happen, but we get back to community groups, community church, and also supporting parents. Parents have it rough. We live in a community where there's not a lot of 9 to 5 working people. So people are working at factories, they're working at the hospital, working at the prison, they're working at other places. And a lot of people don't have a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 life. So
that's right.
I think that we have to get back to say, okay, I could be your support for that, right? So I think you see it to a smaller degree, but like, okay, if my kid has dance or my kid has football, but I know you're working well, I'm going to be the person to pick up your kid. You know your kid's safe because your kid's going to be with me, or vice versa. We have to get back to that, starting groups and so there needs to be parent groups associated with these activities. There needs to be a place where parents can go, but it also needs to be parents can go and be honest and real, because I love being a mom. I love my kid. She's a dope little person. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be a mom today. Like not that I want to do anything else. I just don't want to be a parent today. Like, I don't want my name to be mom. I want to sit here and watch TV and eat what I want, not worry about whether you ate or not. Like, everybody has those moments. And I think that you should be able to say that without people thinking that you're a bad parent, right? You got to be honest. And I think that we have to find a way. We have a lot of single parent households, and that doesn't mean that you don't have 2 parents who are good parents, right? And I think that, once again, it goes into keeping kids out of adult stuff as much as we can. And it's hard to do. Don't get me wrong. When you don't like that other person, that other person don't like you, or y'all going through it, it's really hard not to. But we gotta keep our kids away from that. And we gotta acknowledge that somebody always said that, like, you gotta realize, like, if you say this person is bad and the cribs thinks I'm here for this person, that means you think here for me is bad. So we have to really get into figuring out, how do we create these safe environments so that kids can have a loving relationship? Because the more people who love a kid, the more people who are rooting for a kid, the better that kid is off. And that's just the truth of the matter, right? Like, to have two parents, whether they're in a relationship or not, you have two parents who love you and care about you, and it's even better. And mom has a boyfriend, and dad has a girlfriend or a wife, and mom has a husband. Now you got four people who love you. You had the world. And now you have not only your four biological grandparents, maybe you got another four grandparents you can add to that mix. You know what I mean? The more people who we have rooting for our kids, the more we're in a better position. I always tell people, like, if you are with your kid's significant other, but their significant, their new person loves your kid and pours energy into your kid in a positive way, that's a great feeling. It's a great thing to know that these kids are being loved. So I think it's that. And I think it's, like I said, taking them out, expose them, make them go, like I always said, like, let them dress up and go someplace to eat besides a fast food place.
Exactly.
Try new foods that you may normally don't like. I meet so many older kids. If I go out to eat with them, all they want to eat is chicken fingers and cheeseburgers. I'm like, you don't want to eat this? You don't want to try that? And they're like, no, I don't like. Like, Jimmy, you don't like it. Have you ever had it before?
Exactly.
Exposing them to different things, taking them to look at art. I tell people, I don't know anything about art, but sometimes I go to the art museum. I mean, I don't know if it's good art or bad art. I just be like, oh, that's what this picture, you know what I'm saying? But it's about exposure. It's about learning and trying new stuff and letting our kids know it's okay to learn and try new things and allow them, like I said, let them figure things out. Exposure. I think it's all about exposure, what you're exposed to and what you're not exposed to. And I can't blame some parents, because if you weren't exposed to it, it's hard to then turn around and expose your kids to them that you don't know anything about. And then there are parents who just are tired, like they're working, they have to work, they have to be able to maintain. So I get it. That's where your community comes in. That's where your rec boards come in. That's where your other organizations come in. That's where your schools come in. Like, do you know the Franklin Institute, when it's open once a month, has like is it called Target Free Tuesdays or Wednesdays? It's either Tuesday or Wednesday. They're open and you can go there for free. And we went a couple of times, and you go and you have to pay to park, but it's a discounted rate to play park, and it's so empty in there. So it's not like going there on a class trip, and you get to touch things and move around, and it's cool. I'm like, that's something that if you get enough people go up there, just go up there. Like, after dinner, go and spend a couple hours at the Franklin Institute. And I was surprised how empty it was. I'm like, this is free and it's empty.
Wow.
So, like, that's something that you can do that doesn't cost a lot of money. That's something that's just outside the box to go in and try out.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks. Powerful stuff, sis. You know, and it's just like this professor that I had, she said, Miss Coffee, and it's just like you said about exposure. She was like, people are surprised how much your life can change just going 45 minutes and in each direction, either it's north, south, west, east. You know, it could be life changing. You know, just 40 minutes in each direction, and you know, and a lot of people don't understand that. You know, just like you said, learning new things, meeting new people. It can mean a world of change. And you know, like I tell people, when I first started out, I wanted to be a revolutionist. You know, I tell people, like, you know, Pac was like my idol, so I just be all into that type of stuff, like the Black Panther stuff. And then working as a salesman at Sears, it was a white woman. She came up to me one time crying, and she was like, I got to make a decision between buying this lawnmower and feeding my kids. And, you know, she got emotional and she was crying. And I'm like, man, I ain't know white people got them type of problems, you know? So it's just that, even though I knew white people didn't have it like that, just from having classmates, it's just for whatever reason that experience clicked with me to where I'm like, you know what? Like a reality check that I'm like, you know, we're all out here trying to make it and, you know, feed our kids. So just that experience was life changing for me. So now I was like, okay, you know, let's be all inclusive to where you diversify things and try to bridge gaps and bring people together. You know, so exposure is a key in everything.
It is. And I think that it's okay to still be a little revolutionary. Like, for example, like, I know for a fact when somebody sees me, somebody sees you, before you see anything else, you notice that I'm Black.
That's right.
You notice brown skin. And I can't change that. But I think the problem is we change the narrative, right? We don't
Yeah.
associate this black skin with bad things. And I think part of it, especially for young people, is when you teach them. The African American Museum in DC is powerful. And I always keep saying to myself, I've been there now, I think 3 or 4 times. And I keep saying that I want to go and I want to be the only person there. Like I want to be able to, which is never going to happen. Like if I break into it, probably now, right? So I want to be the only person because it takes you through these stages. And what is important to me is really understanding our history, right? And understanding our role as brown people in that history, and understanding that slavery just wasn't about enslaving human bodies, but it was about economic growth. Imagine having a business for hundreds of years and not have to pay anybody to run it. You know what I'm saying? Like not have to pay any employees for hundreds of years. So it goes to that, knowing our history and knowing who you are. But also, if the only people I think I am was, like, if I think if I was a slave and then Martin Luther King then had a speech and now we're okay, and that's all I kind of know about history. I don't have a growing understanding of the people who look like me and what they actually did and what they actually contributed. I cried when I watched the movie Hidden Figures, not because it was just that dramatic, but I cried because I didn't know who these women were. I didn't know who Katherine Jackson was until I watched that movie. And I was sad about it because not only did I had made a purpose to learn my history, but I also my concentration in undergrad was African American studies. Like I took that as a personal thing, and I still didn't know. And I thought you could know about every single person. My thought about it is when you were learning about the moon landing, when you learn about science, if you learned about Katherine Jackson, maybe a little brown girl would have said, you know what, somebody like me has done this job, right?
Yep.
And that's part of exposure. That's part of saying that I need to know that I need to find something in the fact that somebody who looked like me.
Mm-hmm. That's the truth.
Was able to do something. Was able to do something great. Sorry about that. I was able to do something great. Somebody who looks like me, somebody who walks like me, somebody who maybe came from my similar environment or my similar set of circumstances, and we can relate to it. We find, and then you take that, you find that common thread in everybody. The fact that in 2020 we're still having too many firsts is a problem. And the fact that in 2020 we've had firsts and we haven't had seconds or thirds or fourths or fifths, and we haven't really opened the door for everybody, that's still a problem, right? We shouldn't be celebrating the fact that this is the first person, because these first, although they are great in who they are, weren't the first great one. Somebody before them was just equally as great, equally as smart, equally as educated or well-positioned or well-skilled for that thing, but were overlooked only solely because of how they look, because of the color of their skin. So I think that we need to show our kids there are people who look like you who are doing great things every single day. I didn't always agree with President Obama, but I loved watching him and Michelle in the White House. And I love watching them in the White House because guess what? They had so much class and dignity and grace and they were somebody who looked like me, right? Yep. My daughter, although she was born when Bush was president, she didn't remember that president. She was so young. The only president besides the current one she remembered was President Obama.
Wow.
But that's who she remembers. And I remember when we had our last election and me and her were debating about who I should vote for. And this was in the primary between Bernie and Hillary. And she looked at me and she told me that she was like, look, if Hillary wins, that means the presidents that I remember would be a Black man and a female. And I was like, that's powerful. Like, whereas that's not my reality, right? That could have been her reality, but that was my reality, right?
It's the truth.
So hopefully we don't have somebody who's not white or not male for another hundreds of years. You know what I mean? Hopefully President Obama opened a door that somebody else can walk through.
Exactly. That's the
and
truth.
I don't know if that's going to happen because even our next hopeful is not necessarily if Biden wins and who I like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when is somebody else? Are we going to go back to now just white male, white male, white male, white male? You know what I mean? Was this a blemish in time, and we're not so evolved where a woman or another minority or could possibly sit in that role? So I think that it's okay to be revolutionary. It's okay to want to break down walls and change things, because it's not just our young people, but our young people can't change the way they're thinking until we change the way we think.
That's right.
Until we all acknowledge that. Until schools consider Black history as part of our history, a part of this country's history. We acknowledge the sins of our fathers. We acknowledge what we did wrong, and we try to grow from it. It's not about being a post-racial society. It's about embracing. It's not about being a melting pot. Somebody always says, like, maybe like more like a stew. Like every ingredient is different, but it brings a different flavor and taste to it. And it's acknowledging and respecting each of those different flavors without, you know what I mean, discriminating against one or the other.
Exactly. Yep. Good stuff. Appreciate you, sis.
I appreciate you and all the work you do, JT. I really do.
Yeah, hit me up anytime.
Yes, we definitely, especially when we get out of punishment. We all got to, you know what I'm saying, get together, do some more work. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
everybody's on punishment right now.
yeah. All right, so take care. I
All right,
appreciate you
you
coming up
too.
with Coach.
All right, anytime. Bye.
Cool.